Want to come work in the U.S., you might have to start hitting the gym.
That's right. We're going to tell you all about that today on The Undercurrent. Whoa. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Warren. How are you?
I'm fine. I survived the blizzard of 25.
I got out. I was able to get out. I was able to get out of O'Hare. I was in Chicago over the weekend hanging with Uncle Warren and everybody else, but I was able to actually experience some snow.
Yeah, it was nice. They were making it sound like worse than it was going to be because they was talking about lake effect snow coming off Lake Michigan. And I remember what was a couple of years ago with Buffalo had their lake effect snow, and they got feet and feet of snow. I guess the lake effect there don't play it, but here it was just like we got maybe a couple inches, something like that. Not bad.
Not too bad. And it was clear enough to get out. It was nice and sunny. I mean, it was a little bit, in the beginning of the day, a little bit dingy, but got pretty nice and sunny. Beautiful weather.
It's already it's supposed to be 50s and 60s the rest of the week here in Chicago. So that snow's already melted out there.
I think it's like 69 down here. So yeah. It goes both ways.
Nothing could be finer. Yeah. So we got a little. I have more of like a dusting, I would say, but more than anything, I guess, compared to most of the blizzards that happen here in the Chicagoland area. So, how's the weather down there?
It's sunny. It's sunny. It's nice. I'm looking forward to. I was out last night. Went to the gym. Speaking of the gym, I was out at the gym. I walked there and back late at night, and it was perfectly comfortable. So cool.
Yeah, I like this time of year. Like if it's like. Even if it dips into the 40s, like the high 40s or something, I'm like, it's still nice. It's still like, you could put on like a hoodie or something like that and you're good to go, But then once they start getting down into like the 30s and 20s and teens, then you're like, okay, that's enough of that.
I'm done.
But you know what? It's funny. I grew up down south, so I was used to hot, humid summers. I didn't like them that great, but I could take them a hell of a lot better than I could like a cold day or something like that. And now that I've lived in the north for almost 20 years, it's a polar opposite, pun intended. It's like now when it's hot and humid, I'm like, oh God, when is fall gonna get here? And even when it's like cold, like 20 or 10 or something like that, I'll put on a jacket. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I look like Bigfoot, but it's fine. I'm fine. So I just love it. I love it. But as the weather goes, it's going to change, with climate change and stuff like that. We're going to probably get some wild weather in your neck of the woods, my neck of the woods too. So
it happens. It's been known to happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, we got some newsy news.
We do. It keeps writing itself for us. We don't have to dig too hard, do we?
No, we do not, which is great. Oh, wait a minute. Why is this not up? Bing. Okay. So no comments yet, but we'll get some comments, I'm sure. So we'll get some complainers.
Yes. And complainers will be accused of being traitors.
Well, the shutdown is almost over. The government shutdown, Lainey. So there was some kerfuffle in the Senate. 8 Democrats came over to the Republican side to get the 60 votes needed to pass the budget in the Senate. Now today it goes to the House. They'll be voting on it this evening. So let's get crack-a-lackin', as nobody says anymore. House to vote on the bill to end U.S. shutdown. Why the Democrats are opposing it. There's Hakeem Jeffries there. The fight over the budget has now moved to the House a day after the Senate cleared a stopgap funding measure to end the longest government shutdown in the country's history, as House Democratic leaders are encouraging members to vote against the bill. The Republican-led measure was passed in the Senate yesterday with the support of 8 senators from the Democrats, as we told you, who broke ranks with the party. The stopgap package, which will keep the government running until January 30th, 2026, did not include funding for health care subsidies, which is at the heart of the political impasse that has gripped the U.S. since October 1st, when the shutdown began. Top Democrats, including Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, are seeking an amendment to the bill to extend health care subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, that old ACA, you know me, which benefits some 24 million Americans. If the Republican-controlled House passes the bill Wednesday, it will go to Trump to be signed into law. So what are the Democrats proposing? What's the House? And will the House pass the bill ending 42 days of shutdown? So technically, the government's still shut down because they haven't voted yet to finally get this done. And as you know, things tend to go screwy towards the end of some of these things, so you never know. So what are the Democrats demanding? Jeffries and other Democratic lawmakers unveiled a proposed amendment to the bill that would call for a 3-year extension of subsidies to the ACA, which is due to expire at the end of the year, to make health insurance coverage more affordable. We're going to continue the fight to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and if that doesn't happen this week, next week, this month, next month, then it's the fault of Trump, House, and Senate Republicans who continue to make life more expensive for the American people. Jeffries said last night. The ACA was first launched in 2010, informally known as Obamacare, which was actually, he stole that from Mitt Romney. It was Romney Care before that. Under then President Barack Obama, while the act affected all aspects of the healthcare system, the main change was the introduction of a regulated health insurance marketplace for those who are uninsured to access health insurance. In 2021, then President Joe Biden expanded the tax credits under the American Rescue Plan Act and economic stimulus package, which made healthcare coverage more affordable for families and those with higher incomes in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So in 2022, the tax credits were extended under the Inflation Reduction Act under Biden's administration, and it's those subsidies that will expire at the end of the year unless the Republicans agree to the Democrats' demands. However, this morning, the Republican majority House Rules Committee voted to reject an amendment to the bill that would later be voted on to extend enhanced health care subsidies for 3 years. And Trump has shown no signs of giving concessions on the issue. Last week, he proposed to send ACA subsidies directly into people's bank accounts. What? I am recommending to Senate Republicans that the hundreds of billions of dollars currently being sent to money-sucking insurance companies in order to save the bad health care provided by Obamacare be sent directly to the people so that they can purchase their own much better health care and have money left over. He posted on his Truth Social platform. Not sure how that's going to work out. In July, Trump and Congress cut Medicaid funding by $930 billion over the next decade as part of his big, beautiful bill. Medicaid is the biggest government-run health program and provides care to low-income people. So how might the collapse of the subsidy impact individuals? According to the healthcare research nonprofit KFF, if ACA subsidies are not extended, people who are enrolled in the subsidized program are estimated to pay more than double. Yikes. Them things weren't cheap in the first place. Annual premium payments for ACA enrollees would rise from $888 this year to $1,904 next year. Christine Meehan, 51-year-old hairstylist from Pennsylvania who depends on the marketplace health insurance, told the AP that her $160 monthly plan will increase by about $100 next year. And here's some people like, well, $100 isn't bad. Well, if you don't have the $100, yeah, that's real bad. Good morning, Ellen. It's good to see you. And we got Chuck's UFO show.
We do.
Hectic in the house. Good to see all of y'all. Ellen joining us on the Book of Faces.
The Book of Faces, yes.
That's right. Yes, we're on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Instagram too.
Yeah, and if you are on my Instagram, remember we don't see your comments directly here in StreamYard. I'm going back and forth to monitor that. So if you want to make a comment, please do. It'll take a little bit for me to report on it.
And remind me, Lainey, I need to tell you something about Instagram after the show, as far as like some new thing here in our little streaming service that we're using too. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy that. So
good.
So 8 senators, 7 Democrats, 1 independent defected to vote for the funding bill, which does not include health care subsidies. Republicans said the issue will be decided in another vote next month. The passage of the bill required Democratic support, as Republicans were 7 short of the 60 votes required. I think there were 8 votes short. That's why they needed 8 people for the legislation to pass. Democratic Senators Dick Durbin, John Fetterman, Catherine Cortez Masto, Maggie Hassan, Tim Kaine, Jackie Rosen, and Jean Shaheen of the Dancing Machine. I always like to say that because of the Gong Show. You remember the Jean, the Dancing Machine, voted along with the independent Senator Angus King, Angus of Maine. Now, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is calling for the Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer to step aside after blaming him for allowing the Democrats to cross over. Let's see. So far, a handful of senators have called on Schumer to resign for allowing the bill to pass, but you know how that's that. Now we're dealing with politics, and that doesn't deal with. That's all like theater kind of stuff. What was agreed in the funding deal? So in the compromise legislation, it was agreed that all federal workers who had been working unpaid would be paid during the shutdown, according to the Bipartisan Policy Center. At least 670,000 federal employees have been furloughed, while about 730,000 are working without pay, and that includes air traffic controllers. Yep, and a lot of them are starting to
getting a little sick, getting that allergy.
I got a little tickle. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Funding for SNAP, which provides food aid for about 42 million Americans, will be extended until next September, according to the bill. And we'll tell you, but it hasn't passed yet, so we'll tell you about that in a second. What's going to happen in the meantime for air controllers who are classified as essential workers and did not receive their pay, facing staffing issues that led to 10% of flights being canceled. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said workers will receive 70% of their back pay within 24 to 48 hours. A lot of those people too were like taking second jobs, doing like food delivery, Uber, that kind of thing. The remaining 30% will arrive about a week later, he said. So the Republicans holding a slight majority in the House of Representatives. The bill is likely to pass during tonight's vote, which will take place as early as 4 p.m. East Coast time. So I guess it'll be late afternoon. In the 435-member House, Republicans control 219 seats, and Democrats 214. To pass a bill, a simple majority is needed, which in this case would be 218. But okay. So yeah, they should be able to do it, unless they can get some converts on the Republican side to move over, which I doubt they'll be able to do. Democrats are expected to vote against the bill nonetheless. Before the vote, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson called on Democrats to think carefully, and then it's my urgent plea, blah, 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 whatever. So basically we are close to the end of the shutdown, but not quite there yet.
Not quite there.
We're getting there, but we're not quite there.
We're not entirely sure what's at the other end too, because with the ACA, which Trump's had a hard on for that for a long time. And I'm not crazy about the ACA. It's a boon for insurance companies, but it's something. And what people are going to be coming out without those subsidies, a lot of people are not going to be able to afford anything.
Right. And they damn sure ain't going to be able to afford double. They're probably barely making it now with these subsidies, and without the subsidies, they're going to be, as the scholars say, in a bit of a shit pickle. So there's also a hemp loophole issue that could delay the reopening too. A hemp loophole? Is somebody smoking hemp? Are they making products out of hemp. I don't understand.
Are they
what that
getting
means.
loopy on hemp?
Maybe. Chuck likes to speak in riddles sometimes.
He does.
Like we said, how does that's gonna deal with SNAP? Well, let me snap my fingers.
Oh, Lord.
So the U.S. Supreme Court extends Trump's pause on $4 billion in food aid benefits. And I did a story on this yesterday on Morning Extra about how the USDA and the Agriculture Department was threatening states to cut off SNAP altogether if they fully funded it themselves.
Yeah, and then there was the clawback threat, and that was, which I'm like, okay,
right.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. So, yeah, things aren't bad enough in this country that you got to go screwing around with people's food like that.
Yeah.
So millions of Americans grappling with food insecurity will face more uncertainty this week after the U.S. Supreme Court enabled the Trump administration to continue withholding funds for food stamps. In an administrative stay issued yesterday, the highest court upheld the administration's request to extend a pause on a federal judge's ruling that would have required $4 billion in funding for SNAP for SNAP, the food aid relied on by 42 million people to be distributed. The funding freeze has been given 2 additional days and will now remain in place until midnight on Thursday. With the House planning to vote tonight or this afternoon on a package that could spell the end of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, the administration has dug its heels in on fully funding the essential food program, insisting the funds will only be cleared when Congress comes to a compromise. So the only way to end this crisis, which the executive is adamant to end, is for Congress to reopen the government. Solicitor General D. John Sauer, that's an appropriate name, wrote in the Trump administration's filing. Program benefits are funded federally but are administered by local and state governments. The funding lapse, a first for the largest anti-hunger program in the U.S., has caused chaos in states that were left in the lurch after they issued benefits they believed were authorized prior to the Supreme Court's decision. On Sunday, the U.S. Department of Agriculture directed states to immediately undo the aid already provided to low-income Americans. Let's take away your benefits that we already gave you. It remains unclear whether funds already issued by states will be reimbursed by the federal government, where coffers are already running low. To the extent states sent full SNAP payment files for November 2025, this was unauthorized. Patrick Penn, the Deputy Undersecretary of Agriculture, wrote in to state SNAP directors on Saturday. Accordingly, states must immediately undo any steps taken to issue full SNAP benefits for November 2025. So how are they going to undo that? I mean, if they've sent the money out.
Yeah, it's a clawback. And the thing of it is, my suspicion is that most of the people who were receiving those benefits on their cards probably immediately went out to the grocery store and just spent it down, knowing that this is a possibility. So they could do the clawback. They could try clawing back from the states, but there's nothing there to claw back. I suppose they could go door to door and raid people's pantries, or they could even give them, some kind of an emetic and make them puke up whatever they've eaten. I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, don't give them any ideas, right? I mean, we're like,
yeah, they're not going to do it though, because we can't have medical care. So there's no doctors out to give them the medication to make them puke or pump their stomachs. I don't know. I mean, the whole clawback thing. I remember when that was issued, I was staying with a friend and she and I are looking at each other like, what the heck? But my guess is that they would probably wanted the states to go in, yank the money back off the cards from those folks who were unfortunately not able to get to the store in time. That's the only thing I can think.
Yeah. So, like I said, we think that would be a crazy idea of them going door to door and taking food, but some crazy things have happened already this year that we never thought would happen, but here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Back and forth has left chaos and confusion in the wake as the USDA threatened states with penalties if they didn't comply. In a filing in the First Circuit Court of Appeals, a coalition of states argued that returning hundreds of millions of dollars would risk catastrophic operational disruptions for the states, with a consequent cascade of harms for their residents. Several state officials have already vowed to fight the order. If Trump wants to penalize states for preventing Americans from going hungry, we will see him in court, Maura Healey, the Democratic governor of Massachusetts, said on Sunday. There is a chaos, and it is an intentional chaos that we are seeing from this administration. According to Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, said in an interview on CBS on Sunday, noting there had been 4 different measures of guidance in only 6 days. What? You mean they keep changing their mind? That doesn't sound like they know what they're talking about. That's just crazy talk.
Imagine that. Yeah.
I know, right? With only half of November's allotment issued to beneficiaries, pressure on food banks and local agencies trying to keep pace with the need has been immense, with the Thanksgiving holidays quickly approaching. Yeah, only a few weeks. And schools closing. Those needs will sharply rise if funds are not soon restored. It's hard to look someone in the face who's telling you that they can't feed their family and be able to try to guide them to other avenues to try to get some food for their household. Stacy Smith, a government worker, told The Guardian this week. We have community food banks and we have food pantries, and they're already maxed out. Indeed. Yeah. So in the meantime, there's all this back and forth between the federal and the states with this, and good on these states too for trying to take care of their people like that. With what people don't understand about food stamps, they think it's just like, oh, well, you're just going to get this money and just spend it however you want. They spend it on food. They spend it on their local grocery stores, and sometimes in big cities, they'll spend it at bodegas and little corner shops. It's win-win for everybody. And it's just insane. This is just, I think you and I discussed this. This is just plain straight up cruelty and fear, trying to get people to stay in line. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's cruelty. I think it's fear. I think it may be a bit of data collection just to see how people respond. It's testing to see what people will do. The fact that they've done it this time, that they threatened WIC benefits, although they've quietly apparently managed that, just to see what people are going to do. I think there's a lot of testing going on. And this is, I will say that I saw communities rise up. My parents' church here in the center of town has a little free food pantry where anybody can leave shelf-stable goods and people can get stuff. And I saw when the shutdown started really kicking in with the SNAP payments, some people were actually putting together food kits where they had a recipe for a soup or a stew and then all the ingredients in a bag, and they were putting those in there for people to take. And I did see people coming forward, but as they pointed out, this was something like an $8 billion shortfall. And that's something that charities and in churches really cannot just kick in and go ahead and do. And it was very frightening to see that they were perfectly willing to take food away from people. And also with as you point out, the economic trickle effect. It's the stores, it's the trucking companies, it's the food manufacturers, the warehouses. There's this has a domino effect on every aspect of our economy and every aspect of our community. So this is really very troubling to me, and I'm very concerned about what we're going to see in the future. The other thing that began to happen is we saw stuff from the USDA, their commissioners, saying, well, the silver lining here is we're learning just how corrupt this program is. And Trump is saying we're going to reform the program, and we know what that means. And we know what that means. And what that means is cutting benefits, making it harder to be eligible for benefits, and very likely just trying to categorize which foods can be purchased using SNAP benefits. And again, I'm all for people eating healthy food. I'm all for encouraging that, like the farmers markets that will double or triple benefits for the purchase of healthy foods at farmers markets. But it's also true that not everybody is able to eat every kind of food. Not everybody has the resources to store or cook food effectively, for example. And so sometimes it's those processed foods that are shelf stable that are the healthiest things for them to eat. So I'm deeply concerned.
Yeah, I'm deeply concerned too. And even once the government gets back open and they get these SNAP benefits going again, it's still not going to alleviate the prices of these foods that have
And
gone
which are
sky high.
crazy, which
Yeah,
is crazy.
and there is no adjustment for cost of living for food when you get SNAP. When you get SNAP, you get SNAP, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ellen has a great thing. Years ago, and for years, I ran a program at my church to collect food for parents who every school year had to choose between food and school supplies for what it's worth. Yes, absolutely, Ellen. I think that people don't grasp that the SNAP benefits cover strictly food. They don't necessarily they don't cover over-the-counter drugs. They don't cover toilet paper or toiletries. They don't cover the school supplies that kids need. And they don't cover things like, for example, utility bills. And we know that one of the programs that's been that's on the cutting block here with the shutdown has been the low income heating programs. So when you cut somebody's access to food, and everybody gets it at once, so there's no charity that can just step in to help out, and when you've got high inflation to begin with on food prices, you have people having to make some devastating choices.
Indeed.
And again, that's a domino effect.
And people are going to have to decide about how they're going to be filing for their IRS returns every year too. Here.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Yes,
So the IRS had, as you've probably seen, there are all these online services where you can file your own taxes, and you go in, and I think almost all of them have a free option. They may be required to do that. I'm not positive, but they have that. But they upsell, and you go in, and they will say, well, you have this service, and this is what it costs, but you may need this and you may need that. Now, there are some people who do have more complex tax situations, and yes, they're going to need different services and to file different schedules. But in many cases, for many people, particularly people who who are not self-employed, who are simply working a standard job, who do not have deductions, who are not making a lot of money, a simple tax filing service works great. And the IRS was testing, or it's trialing its own direct file program, so that you could get free tax prep. And that was an absolutely essential thing for a lot of people who don't want to spend a lot of money to get their taxes managed. And now the federal government has canceled it, saying that it's a failed program, even though it was never really promoted or pushed.
Well, let's get into it. So the IRS officially kills direct file. They called it a failed program. They offered millions free tax prep. I remember when that first came out too. It was like, yeah, because you would have had to like TurboTax and what is it? What's the some of the other tax
H&R Block.
H&R Block and others, they charge you a fee, and this was free. And like, well, we can't give people free. That's socialism. So the IRS Direct File Program, a free federally funded tax filing service, will not be available for the 2026 tax season, the agency informed state officials last week. I think that we have better alternatives, I'm sure, said Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, told reporters at the White House today. It wasn't used very much, or I guess it was last week. It wasn't used very much, and we think that the private sector can do a better job. Yeah, good job, private sector. You're doing a hell of a job, Brownie. In the private sector now, aren't you? Let's see, healthcare. Direct File was launched as a pilot in 2024 with the goal of simplifying tax filing for Americans and providing an accessible alternative to third-party services like TurboTax and H&R Block, which have a reputation for upselling users. This year, IRS Direct File expanded. It was available to certain taxpayers in 25 states before its termination. An IRS memo to states last week confirmed what many have long expected was coming. In April, Trump administration officials referred to Direct File as a failed program, citing its steep price tag relative to how many taxpayers used it. On November 3rd, IRS official Cindy No informed state tax offices by email that Direct File is now closed for the 2025 tax filing season and won't be coming back. IRS Direct File will not be available in filing season 2026. No launch date has been set for the future, she added, with a brief line thanking states for collaboration and partnership to create a free, simple way for taxpayers to file their federal and state taxes. A copy of the letter was shared with Money magazine by a spokesperson from New York Governor Kathy Hochul's office, one of several Democratic leaders who are speaking out against the Trump administration's move to cut the free initiative. The Trump administration is actively choosing to eliminate programs that have saved taxpayers money, the governor's office said in an email. During a time when inflation and the cost of living are already so high, programs like this should be preserved to help Americans keep more of their hard-earned money. You would think. Officials in California and Illinois also confirmed receiving the letter. Mara Kaunaki, a spokesperson for the Illinois Department of Revenue, said the Prairie State's partnership with the IRS to offer direct file also meant that Illinois taxpayers could file their federal returns and be automatically connected to the state's free income tax system, My Tax Illinois, to complete their state returns. These capabilities are now gone. It's an easy way to file your taxes. Yes, let's make sure we get rid of that. Ending the direct file program is a setback for hardworking families who relied on it to file their federal returns at no cost. So, as you said, the IRS Direct File was a federally funded free online tax filing service available to certain taxpayers in 25 states, tested with a small group in 2024. The online tax filing program was expanded to additional states this year. Ultimately, about 30 million people qualified to use it. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayers filed with Direct File in 2024 and 25, and data shows it was growing. Nearly 300,000 taxpayers submitted tax returns that were ultimately accepted through Direct File this past tax season, up from about 141,000 the previous year. The program's success has long been disputed, despite its cost of over $40 million per year, which is, compared to all the other things we're doing, that's a drop in the bucket. Direct File's critics point out that it was only available to a limited number of taxpayers with relatively basic tax situations. But it was expanding, so it's like you have to give it time to let this program develop. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act included gazoonies. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act included appropriations for the IRS to research the replacement of Direct File and the cost of alternative options like enhanced public-private free filing partnerships. Yeah, if you got private in there, this is an oxymoron. Private free, yeah, that ain't happening. Once the bill became law, the Trump administration used it as license to fully cut Direct File. Billy Long, who was the IRS commissioner from June to August, said at Tax Summit in July, "You've heard of Direct File. That's gone. Big, beautiful Billy wiped that out. I don't care about Direct File." He added. I'm sure he doesn't, because he can probably afford to have his taxes filed. So, how to file taxes for free without Direct File. This is probably the most important part here. So, in the absence of Direct File, taxpayers under a certain income threshold can consider Free File. And is that okay. All right. So a separate option to file taxes for free via IRS partnerships with tax software companies. Let me put that in the old chatteroonies here, if we can get that in there. So you should be able to that's the link for Free File. During the 2025 tax season, filers earned $84,000. Earning $84,000 or less could get online tax prep at no charge. Folks over the limit could make use of Free File fillable forms. There's a lot of alliteration there. Both programs are expected to return next year. Andrew LePage, spokesperson for the California Franchise Tax Board, says that California taxpayers can continue to use our longstanding CalFile service to file their California state tax return online for free directly with FTB. Free File allows for free guided tax preparation through companies like TaxSlayer, and EasyTaxReturn.com. Taxpayers may have to pay fees to file state returns. As IRS Direct File is eliminated, some advocates are arguing that the Free File option isn't enough. Hochul's office said that the Trump administration's decision to kill the direct file program shows how far they'll go to put special interests over the needs of everyday Americans. And Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat out in Oregon, said in a statement that the only thing Trump accomplishes by doing this is stealing from working class taxpayers to pad their profits of giant rent-seeking tax software companies. The IRS did not respond to money's request, blah, blah, blah. So they don't want you to pay taxes, but if you're going to pay taxes, make sure that you're paying to get them filed. Right? Free market.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, they didn't really give this program a chance.
Right.
You only file your federal taxes once a year, and so it would make sense, give it. It was growing, give it a chance, publicize it more, let people know that it's available to them. You develop partnerships with community organizations. To let people know about this particular option. I mean, the IRS does have some good programs for people, including they train tax preparers who work on a volunteer basis in communities to help people out with their sources, with their resources.
Yeah, I think part of this too is the fact that it was started. I think it was started under Biden, right? It was in 2024. Or was it? Yeah. It was started under Biden.
It did, yeah.
And this may be, to me, it just sounds like another petty thing that Trump's rolling back just to spite, to own the libs, as the phrase goes, which is it's pretty sad because this is something that really could have helped people. What's not helping people is fraudulent ads on Facebook. If you're into that kind of thing, if you buy stuff off of Facebook, you ought to be ashamed of yourself in the first place. Unless you're using that the marketplace. Sometimes you can get some good stuff in there, but
yeah, sometimes.
Meta is earning a fortune on a deluge of fraudulent ads, according to documents. Meta projected 10% of its 2024 revenue would come from ads for scams and banned goods, documents seen by Reuters show. That's the outlet here. And the social media giant internally estimates that its platforms show users 15 billion scam ads a day. Among its responses to suspected rogue marketers, charging them a premium for ads and issuing reports on scammiest scammers, the scammiest scammers who ever scammed. Meta internally projected late last year that it would earn about 10% of its overall annual revenue, or 16 billion, from running these ads. That's from internal company documents. A cache of previously unreported documents reviewed by Reuters also show the social media giant for at least 3 years failed to identify and stop an avalanche of ads that exposed Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp's billions of users to fraudulent e-commerce and investment schemes, illegal online casinos, and the sale of banned medical products. Yikes. You're buying banned medical products off of Facebook. Jeez. On average, one December 2024 document notes the company shows its platform's users an estimated 15 billion higher risk scam advertisements, those that show clear signs of being fraudulent, every day. Meta earns about 7 billion in annualized revenue from this category of scam ads each year. Another late 2024 document said. Much of the fraud came from marketers acting suspiciously enough to be flagged by Meta's internal warning systems, but the company only bans advertisers if its automated systems predict the marketers are at least 95% certain to be committing fraud, according to the documents. If the company is less certain, but still believes the advertiser is a likely scammer, Meta charges higher ad rates as a penalty. According to the documents, the idea is to dissuade suspect advertisers from placing ads. But if they're making like money hand over fist, of course they're going to be able to afford the higher ad fees, and then who benefits from that? FB, or Meta, I guess in this case. The documents further note that users who click on scam ads are likely to see more of them because of Meta's ad personalization system, which tries to deliver ads based on a user's interest, aka getting up in your business. Hey, let me look at this stuff. Oh, look, you're so creepy and offering me the stuff I was just looking at. That's very, very creepy. The details of Meta's confidential self-appraisal are drawn from documents created between 2021 and this year across Meta's finance, lobbying, engineering, and safety divisions. Together, they reflect Meta's efforts to quantify the scale of abuse on its platforms and the company's hesitancy to crack down in ways that could harm its business interests. Meta's acceptance of revenue from sources it suspects are committing fraud highlights the lack of regulatory oversight of the advertising industry, said Sandeep Abraham, a fraud examiner and former Meta safety investigator who now runs a consultancy called Risky Business Solutions. Dun, 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 dun. You take those old records off. Sorry, that's that movie, Risky Business. If regulators wouldn't tolerate banks profiting from fraud, they shouldn't tolerate it in tech, he told Reuters. That makes sense. In a statement, Meta spokesman Andy Stone said the documents seen by Reuters present a selective view that distorts Meta's approach to fraud and scams. Oh, it's a selective view. It's in documents. That's not selective. It's all in the paperwork. The company's internal estimate that it would earn 10.1% of its 2024 revenue from scams and other prohibitive ads was rough and overly inclusive, Stone said. Baghdad Bob over here. The company had later determined that the true number was lower because the estimate included many legitimate ads as well. He said he declined to provide an updated figure. That's yeah, I'm sure he did. The assessment was done to validate our planned integrity investments, including in combating frauds and scams, which we did, Stone said. He added, we aggressively fight fraud. His nose was growing when he said this. And scams, because people on our platforms don't want this content. Legitimate advertisers don't want it, and we don't want it either. Yet it's still there, and you're still making money off of it. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Over the past 18 months, we have reduced user reports of scam ads globally by 58%. And so far in 2025, we've removed more than 134 million pieces of scam ad content, he said. 134 million pieces. Some of the documents show Meta vowing to do more. We have large goals to reduce ad scams in 2025, states a 2024 document, with Meta hoping to reduce such ads in certain markets by as much as 50%. In other places, documents show managers congratulating staffers for successful scam reduction efforts. At the same time, the documents indicate that Meta's own research suggests its products have become a pillar of the global fraud economy. A May 2025 presentation by its safety staff estimated that the company's platforms were involved in a third of all successful scams in the U.S. Meta also acknowledged in other internal documents that some of its main competitors were doing a better job at weeding out fraud on their platforms. So it's easier to advertise scams on Meta platforms than Google, concluded an internal Meta review in April this year of online communities where fraudsters discuss their trade. Wow, fraudsters have a little thing, they have a community. I didn't know that. The document didn't lay out the reasons behind the conclusion. So there's a lot more to this. But to say, I guess to TLDR it, this is not something new that Facebook has been dealing with. I mean, we've seen all kinds of scam ads and stuff. If you've ever been on Facebook for a significant amount of time, which I used to, I don't as much anymore, but I would see those all the time, right?
Yeah.
Going back to the, especially the political ads. Remember the political ads with the Buff Bernie ads?
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah.
So it's been going on for at least since at least 2016, 2017, or at least 2020 when he was running the second time. I can't remember when the Buff Bernie, I don't know if that was the first time he ran or the second time, but that's the thing. It's like, instead of just trying to get rid of all of these, he's like this guy Stone said, he said, well, we're reducing them, but there's some of these ones that they're just charging more and still letting them scam. What the hell is that?
It's funny. They're so quick to ban groups and users who have political content that they don't like, or who happen to trip an algorithm. But by gum, as long as they're paying money
Yeah.
for ads on there,
Cha-ching.
and
Yeah.
we've talked to our friend Jerry over at Chicago Corner. He's been having problems because he's in the collectibles market, and there's platforms that have people who are scamming people on collections, and Facebook won't do it, and Meta won't do anything about them either,
Mm-mm.
even with proof. Hey,
Yeah.
Steve. Good to see you. Hey, Mystery. Yeah. So there's this has been going on for a while, but Meta. Hey, well, we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe you shouldn't be running this. If you can't behave if you can't manage things in an ethical way, then maybe you shouldn't have it. My family was in the publishing business for many years. We had a magazine, we had several magazines, and we had classified ads. We had a lot of small advertisers. And if we heard from our subscribers or our readers that an advertiser wasn't sending their stuff out, they weren't, they were collecting money and not fulfilling their obligations, we would cut that advertiser off. The ad rep would contact the advertiser and say, hey, what's going on here? And they'd be cut off.
Yeah.
Because we can't have that. But Meta has gotten so big, they don't even care anymore. And
Right.
we know this. We know this with YouTube and all this stuff.
Yeah. And I think it said it best in the article there that there's a severe lack of regulation. It's just kind of a wild, wild west thing going on with these platforms too. And yeah, Mr. No Regulation Trump, he's not going to try and spearhead anything to get that done anytime soon. And God knows how many lobbyists for Facebook there are on Capitol Hill too that are kind of making sure that doesn't happen either. So yeah, wild stuff. Well, speaking of wild, you have the catch of the day here with talking about how there's new visa rules for people who are visiting the United States, and it has something to do with changes in health status or just whatever their health status is, right? You want to
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead and
actually
get
not
things
about
started?
just visitors. It's about people who want to come and work here, people who are applying for work visas, people who
Right.
are looking to maybe settle here. And in all of this, we tend to focus on what's going on in Chicago and in Portland with the ICE agents going around and pepper spraying 1-year-olds and that sort of thing. But there's other things going on that maybe are not getting as much attention, but that could have a huge impact on people who wish to immigrate and settle and work here in the U.S. So there are new guidelines for the immigration officials officers who are going to be reviewing these applications. And right now, if you want to come to the U.S. on a work visa, if you want to settle here, there is basic health information that is inquired about. They want to know, do you have tuberculosis? They don't want you to have tuberculosis if you come here, and that's understandable. They want to check that your vaccines are up to date, although heaven knows with MAHA if that's going to continue to be an issue here. They might be looking into certain health conditions just to get an idea of how healthy you are and whether you are likely to become what is called a public charge, that is dependent on taxpayer money for long-term medical care or rehabilitation. Funnily enough, we don't seem to be concerned about everyday citizens becoming public charges because we don't want to really give them affordable health care. But I guess hypocrisy is the rule of the day. However, what's going on now is that there are new guidance being provided to the immigration officers, and they're being asked to consider a bunch of different things that they have not had to consider before. So they're looking at things like They're going to be looking at things such as physical fitness, whether they have a cardiovascular disease, diabetes, respiratory diseases, cancers, metabolic diseases, neurological diseases, mental health conditions, many of which are just, can be very easily and effectively managed because they can require hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of care. And so they're looking at things like, and they're looking at things like obesity, which they're saying this can cause asthma, sleep apnea, and high blood pressure. And they have to include that in their assessment. But there are problems with this. First of all, the current Foreign Affairs Manual, the State Department has said a visa officer can't reject an application based on what if. There are a lot of people out there who have chronic health conditions, who are able to manage those conditions and manage to lead, relatively long lives. They are not disabled. They are able to continue working, and their conditions are extremely manageable. The other problem is this recent document is, according to this ABC News report, the visa officer is supposed to develop, this is the quote, their own thoughts about what could lead to some sort of medical emergency or sort of medical cost in the future. The problem is the visa officers are not doctors. They're just supposed to spin an idea in their head about what could happen with this individual, which is based on what? Their own family experience, their own prejudices. And it makes for a very loosey-goosey situation in which a visa officer could make a decision about approving a person's application and could easily blame that on a person's potential health outcome. And they could very easily say, hey, this isn't about the person's religion or ethnicity, or sexual orientation or something like that. Hey, this person is overweight, so therefore, even though they're perfectly fine now, one of these days they could become sick and they could end up in a wheelchair and they could end up getting health care on the public dime. And they can very easily deny somebody's application and blame it on a what if health scenario, which may never materialize. And that visa officer isn't required, apparently, to go and talk to a doctor first to say, hey, is this individual so sick that they are going to be a public charge? All they're doing is a what if scenario, which is currently not allowed under the State Department's own current guidelines. So this may sound like a common sense thing. We don't want to have people coming here and who will be over relying on an already strained healthcare system. Well and good, but the way this is being defined, people who don't need that and may never need it are being rejected on that basis, when clearly there could be other factors that the visa officer could shuffle off to the side and blame it on a potential health condition. The other thing is how they're talking about obesity, a lot about obesity in this. And again, obesity is a health problem. There's no question about it. That can lead to other negative health problems for people. But how is that being defined by the visa official? Is the visa official, what are they looking at when they determine whether somebody is obese? You can't necessarily base that on body weight. You can't base it on the so-called BMI measure, because that doesn't account for body composition. I say this because, for example, I lift weights. I'm a part of a lot of people who lift weights, and by default, oftentimes, if you look at the number on the scale, that does not necessarily correlate with body fat percentage or how a person looks or their clothing size. And so if you've got somebody who is looking strictly at numbers, they're in no position to say whether this person is carrying too much body fat. And so again, it becomes very easy for people to dispute, to just disregard an application and ignore it, not have to justify for other reasons why they're disregarding the application. You will have a bunch of people who may find their visa applications denied, or that of family members denied, and then they're going to have to appeal, which is a costly process. And it just this makes things a lot. And also, these guidelines do not mesh with current restrictions, regulations that are on the books. And this is being, there's always this high drama with ICE going on, but this is what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to being able to reject visa applications. You have non-experts who are making these predictions that they have no business making.
So what's the end game with this, right? Denying access to the country for people like that. Is it like you said? The guise is that, oh yes, well, they're going to be a strain on our economy. One thing, that's a damnation of your health system. If you think they're going to come to this country and get worse, what does that say about their healthcare industry? But at the same time, it's also a smoother way, especially if certain individuals have differing opinions on certain political topics about foreign lands that influence our politicians here. You know what I'm saying? You know the thing, right? So
Sure.
Is that another thing too?
I think it absolutely could be. I mean, again, they're asking non-qualified people to make medical assessments. And it's not what the person actually had, what condition that the person actually has. They're being asked to look at certain health conditions and then think what could happen in the future. The State Department says they're not supposed to do that. And they're certainly not supposed to do. I would never do that as a non-medical professional. If somebody came to me and said, I have asthma, I can't sit there and say that, okay, that you're going to die within 10 years, or you're going to suffer this particular condition. I can't make that prediction. And yet they're telling these visa officers who are sitting there looking at an application to do this. And they can do this and not have to explain themselves beyond the medical declaration. Meanwhile, they can conveniently use this as a shield against discriminating for other reasons.
Yeah. And I think discrimination is the key here. That's the overall thing. And they're trying to sugarcoat it, make it sound like, well, we just don't want we don't want any more of a strain from these people. But yeah, it's like, no, you're basically just you're basically just trying to exclude
making
people.
it easier and more convenient, and that they can't claim a more unsavory reason, such as ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, religion, things that that they would prefer to keep certain individuals. Yeah, racist, as Yona says. Yeah, and yes, we can see your comments. Thank you so much. They can excuse racism this way, and they're not also considering what an economic contributor, an immigrant with good job skills, that the economic contributions they and their family might be making to the country as well. It's one more way, and it's very loosey-goosey, because you have a non-medical professional being asked to think into the future about what might or might not happen to somebody. It's nuts, but it's very easy for the government to put that in place, to use it. And
you didn't know that people in the government were Nostradamus, that they could predict the future like that. Come on, Lainey,
Well, didn't Ronald Reagan have an astrologer?
Yeah. Like towards the end, it was basically the astrologer and Nancy running the show. And the tail end of Ronald Reagan's administration, you could kind of tell that happened. So
Willie Bragg in the house.
What's up? The skinny Willie Bragg. You don't get too skinny, Willie. You get that healthy weight, all right? Don't you get unless you're like, pumping iron or something like that. So we got Willie in the house. Yonina's here. Good to see you. CBC voter, mystery. Saw Zell up in here. Peace Dove too. What else we get? Bella. Oh, Bella's up in the mix. What's up?
Yeah, I saw
Good to
Max
see you.
earlier.
Yeah,
Saw
Max.
Kate dropped in.
Yeah, Kate dropped in too. Good to see all of you
We got
guys. We
Tucker.
got
It's all great to see you all. I
yeah,
just think again, folks, when when you see the shock and awe on TV, and you see the pepper balls and the smoke bombs and the clergy being shot at and the kids being pepper sprayed and the frogs, okay, that's one area where your eyes are being drawn to. But this is the kind of thing that's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. And like I said, it is racism, but it's also too what they've been doing with college students too is revoking visas, especially those who were protesting certain places, Israel, for example. And if you have outstanding opinions about that certain place, a lot of times now they're going to be able to use this as well as some sort of, well, let's check out their health and see how their health is so that we don't have to go down that route of saying, you can't come in because you're slamming Israel, So yeah, that's crazy. We'll have to definitely keep up with that and see how that yeah, we'll keep an eye on. Speaking of which, we've got some other stories we're covering here in the recurring tide. I love these animations.
Oh yeah, this one is great. I had to share this one.
Yeah, in the offices there, and the real, like the manager or something will give you some sort of corporate thing to do, and the other person, the employee's like, what? It doesn't make any sense. But in this case, this has to do with housing, right? You want to set this up?
Yeah, so if trying to find an affordable place to live can be really challenging, and sometimes the decision is being made by somebody, again, predicting what in a what if scenario, rather than the fact that you have money in hand or that you even have a decent rental history. So let's give you an idea here of what it's like to try and find decent housing right now.
So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to approve you for the apartment. You're just short of the 3 times the amount of the rent that is required. So I'm sorry about that. I won't be able to approve you. Okay. Just curiosity. Do most people that come here make $7,500 a month? I think most people have multiple income sources. So, they have roommates or their spouse or just other types of income. I don't think that any one person makes the $7,500 in this community. Okay, so it'll be impossible for a single person to get an apartment is what you're telling me. I don't know that it'll be impossible, but it'll be a little challenging for a single income that's not over $90,000 a year to qualify for an apartment. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Wait, don't go yet. I might have another option for you. What other option could you possibly have? So I don't know if you've actually ever considered buying, but when I ran your credit for the approval for the apartment, while we couldn't approve it for the apartment, it does look like I'm able to pre-approve you for $350,000 towards a house. Okay. How much would the mortgage be? Just out of curiosity. I would, of course, have to run the numbers and look at your debt to income ratio, but I would say give or take about $2,800 a month. So you won't approve me for a $2,500 rental payment, but you'll pre-approve me for a $350,000 loan on a house that would have a $2,800 mortgage? Please explain to me how that makes sense. I wish I could. It doesn't exactly make sense. I wouldn't know how to explain it to you in a way that wouldn't also confuse me. But what I'm assuming is that because the house itself is collateral, there's really no downside, because if we have to do a foreclosure, we get the house back. Yeah, but when people are renting, you can do the eviction process, which is essentially the same as the foreclosure. So you still get your property back for non-payment. So that explanation makes no sense. You're absolutely right. But I wouldn't know how to explain it to you in a way that, again, wouldn't confuse me while I'm trying to explain it. So if you want to get started on the process, we could get you approved in a few days. I'm going to go figure out how this makes sense, but thank you so much for your time. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to approve you for the apartment. You're just short of the 3 times the amount of the rent that is
Oh,
required.
is that it?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. I thought I stopped this from looping. Okay, never mind. Yeah, well, yeah. So the moral of the story is housing is ridiculous.
Yeah.
These days.
And it makes no damn sense.
No. Yeah.
No.
And you wonder why people are, so confused about it too. And it's like, well, yeah, I've heard all my life that, yeah, you want to buy because your mortgage payments a lot of times will be cheaper than rent. Right.
And there's tax benefits and you're building up wealth and it's all that. But buying is not all that people ever want to do. Sometimes people don't want to buy. There are some good reasons to not buy, particularly if you're not planning to be in an area for a while. But yet you've got a person who's trying to rent a place and they're being subjected to these ridiculous standards. Even if they're able to make a substantial security deposit, even if they have a good job, even if they have, no history of evictions or things like that, by gum, they can't find a place to live. So I just wanted to address that. It's the fact that people are not a priority.
No, they definitely are. And then but you see, in addition to that, you have all these corporate entities buying up residential properties too, your BlackRocks and your various other major institutions like that are doing that and driving up the prices as well because of that. It's like, oh, well, these houses sold, this house, the price of this house is going to go up. And you're talking about, like, even if you go down south to like maybe Arkansas or Mississippi, you're seeing like $1 million homes in those places. And you're like, who the hell can afford that? And even some of the rents down there are starting to come up too.
Oh, it's insane where I'm living right now. I lucked into my situation. I'm living in this tiny little shack, but next door to me, the homes that are next door to me, 1.5 mil.
Yeah.
I live in the one of the most desirable neighborhoods here. And because my landlord, God bless him, did not want to sell out and wanted to be able to continue to provide housing to people. And so I'm very fortunate. Zilpa, okay, is asking about the 50-year mortgage. I was just listening to a story about that this morning. Trump's talking about the 50-year mortgage. What real estate person would enable a 50-year mortgage? Yeah, one of the problems with that is that it's much harder to build wealth with one of those, but it means that somebody might be able to buy a home. And we've gone around and we've enabled the Airbnb phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
People owning these multiple homes and then turning them into short-term rentals, which has spiked things up. I can tell you, Uncle Warren, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but my parents' church here in town, they're looking at building affordable housing on church property.
Interesting.
And that might, if our folks here, let us know in the chat, would you be interested in hearing from the clergy person who's spearheading this? So there's some interesting stuff. So there's some other community ways of doing this. But the bottom line is, and we know how this is back in the Bay Area, and this has been going on for 30 years, where you have school teachers, city workers who can't afford to live in the communities where they're supposed to be serving.
Yeah.
This is a problem for everybody. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But I thought that particular cartoon was really funny.
Yeah, those Veronica cartoons are very on point when it comes to the ridiculousness of the business world in general. Talking. I like how they talk about like they'll talk to an employer and an employer will say, well, we need you to do this. Well, if I do this, I'm going to have to charge you this. Well, you can't do that. Well, yeah, you did this to me, so I can do this to you. And it's just this back and forth of like all this nonsense that these companies are trying to scam you with in order to get you to, to try and either rent in a particular certain situation or buy in a certain situation. But at this day and age, it's getting to the point where not hardly anybody can do either. So Now you've got something here from the Guardian about the HMRC benefit fraud in the UK.
Yeah, we normally focus on the US here, but I thought that this was a very telling thing. Effectively, what was happening is the UK, they have, for some lower income families, they get a children's benefit payment every month. And as always, you have these to quell the population. The agencies that administer these payments will go ahead and try and check out whether people are trying to scam the system. And so what these dunderheads did, hey, Anonymous, what these dunderheads did was go in and look at flight data. And they were finding people who had supposedly left the country but never flew back. So they were cutting off the benefit payments, saying that these folks had left the country and were no longer eligible for their payments. Well, the thing is that these folks it may have seemed like they had left the country. They had actually never left the country at all. They had a ticket, but they were unable to travel because of illness or something. And without bothering to follow up or investigate, the agency just went in, cut these folks off, and said, "Oops, you're no longer living in the country, so we've cut off your benefits." They've turned around and said, "What do you mean? We're here. We're right here." Well, you left the country and you didn't come back. No, we never got on the flight.
Yeah, it sounds like a scam. Like, yeah, I'm still here. No, you're not. You're hallucinating yourself.
In Northern Ireland, 78% of cases were initially incorrectly identified as not having returned from trips abroad. 129 families were flagged during the pilot as having left the country when only 28 had actually done so. Or, they might have gone over to another country, and then they may have taken a boat back or something like that. But the point is that they'd left the country to do something or not. And or they didn't leave the country at all because somebody got sick, and the dunderheads, the absolute dunderheads running the agency, never bothered to consider what might have happened.
The results of the pilot raise fundamental questions about using home office data to infer fraud. Well, I mean, are these people just stupid, or is there some sort of underlying scheme?
Well, I think the underlying scheme is that, first of all, they get to say to the public, again, this is blood and circuses. Brendan, this is what I've been saying forever with the SNAP program. When you have people that you can drag out and say, hey, we're going to make it hard on these folks, it makes people who are feeling insecure happy because somebody else is getting beat up. Pro wrestling. But I think that they can also justify consulting services who are administrating this. So there are reasons, I think, for them to do that. It's PR. It's to justify the use of consulting services. And I think there's a very ugly truth here that people who are already vulnerable may have a hard time fighting back. So they may be able to cut people off these services. Some of them will die. Some will just fade away and disappear. Some will just sink further and further into poverty, and they don't have the resources to fight back. And exactly. they'd like the folks to go away.
Yeah, and that seems to be the general theme of how people are getting screwed over, not just there, but here too, is people don't have the resources to fight back. That's why we have to fight back collectively, safety in numbers. But so far, it's slow. It's happening, but it's really, really slow. This particular story I thought was interesting because I was reading something about, what is it? I can't remember what the news story was about originally, but a child was using Chat GPT, and then it started, I think it was Chat GPT or one of those, and it started asking the child for like nude pictures of themselves. And I'm like, what? Who the hell is doing this? So Chat GPT is not your friend. Okay.
Yeah.
I take it with a grain of salt. I use it for some sort of, like, if I have technical questions about programs and stuff like that, and then I can go back and double check it, because a lot of times it's wrong. But in this case, Chat GPT security risks, how to spot dangerous links in AI responses. So this is, if you're familiar with AI chatbots like ChatGPT, you probably know that they're not always accurate. However, it doesn't stop people from using them for quick answers, kind of like an advanced search engine is. Well, a lot of times people use this. Around 800 million weekly active users, a number that's doubled this year alone, and that's probably going to keep doubling too. As we said, they get stuff right, but while convenient, AI can state inaccuracies, and worse, it can occasionally suggest unsafe or fraudulent links. It happens more often when you ask for financial website logins or crypto platforms. Our over-reliance on tools like these means we're becoming more vulnerable and trusting of their outputs. Here's why we shouldn't be, and how we can spot dangerous information. So did you want to go more into this?
Well, I wanted to share it with folks to be aware of this, that people are using these large language models to get advice. They're asking for advice about legal matters. They're asking for advice about medical matters in some cases. Now, I know ChatGPT, they're trying to restrict that a little bit more, but other systems may not have those restrictions. And people are using them to shop for things, to find products that they're looking for. And they're being offered links and things that just may not be serving you at all. And it's people who are testing these machines, who are doing so with ill intent, maybe delivering bad information. There's also been people who have been putting malicious links and websites online for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always easy to parse those out. And since human beings don't do a great job, AI may not be doing a very good job of it either. And poor data sources, old data sources that have not been verified, this information is getting out there, and I'm putting out there for our viewers, for our listeners, and basically, folks, particularly right now, where people are getting a whole bunch of misinformation about finances. Again, losing the direct tax filing service, difficulty trying to get housing, if you have friends and family who are facing immigration concerns or their SNAP benefits. If there's ever been a time when we need reliable information, it's so easy to go to ChatGPT or their cousins. The information may not be correct, and you need to verify. Look, we go when you get a diagnosis from a physician, or you talk to a lawyer about something, it's always good to get a second opinion. The same thing holds for AI.
Yeah, and if you're looking up, if it's providing links to you, this is some good how to spot the dangerous links in a thing. So what it says, before you click anything, hover over the link, and it'll show you the whole web address to that link. Look for misspellings, added characters, estranged. There's a lot of times that you see in your like when you get email, like phishing kind of emails, and you'll see something like it'll say from like some major company or something. Then when you see it where it's from, it'll say like, Klingon letters at blah, 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 whatever, that's fake. So it's kind of the same thing there. And also this is good for any of, not just Chat GPT, but any of your web browsing activities.
Yeah.
You want a secure site. So you want it to be in the web address where it says HTTP, you want it to say HTTPS, and that's the secured, where HTTP itself is not secure at all.
This is particularly, this is a Retail Insider publication that this article comes from. And there are, a lot of retailers now that are moving to ChatGPT or AI shopping. Instead of just looking at the website, they actually want you to use this engine to help you find things. And okay, that's well and good, but if you're sitting there with your credit card out, ready to start buying, a malicious link in there, it could drain all your money and you don't get the product that you ordered.
Right. Which is so. I would suggest, like, if you're doing like an Amazon or some sort of like major company, Target, whatever you're doing, use their apps. Try to avoid using the actual website if you can. I'm not saying you can't, but if you want a little bit more security, you're probably going to find a little bit more in the apps for these sites themselves. Yeah, and I've had to correct Chat GPT on more than one occasion when looking up just simple technical stuff. Like I said, I'll be sometimes in my magnanimous studio here. Eyes roll. Sometimes things get, some things get updated, and it's like some programs don't talk to each other. So I get on Chat GPT, explain the problem, and it'll tell me like, oh, okay, well, this is what you need to do. And 9 times out of 10, well, I'll say 8 times out of 10, it provides like a solution for you, which is great. It's a helper, it's a tool. But when you rely on it constantly, and especially for stuff like legal and medical matters, you really, 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 really have to be careful about that kind of stuff. So, speaking of data, there's this is a fun one. You want to talk about this one?
Okay, this publication, by the way, I recently discovered this publication, 404 Media. It's kind of a tech bro newsletter. A lot of it's behind a paywall, not all of it is, but if you're looking for some really excellent independent coverage on tech issues that's well written, even though for those of us who are not tech heads, this is absolutely a publication to check out. So what's going on is there is a town that in Michigan that doesn't want a data center to be built in their town because it's going to use up a whole lot of water and a whole lot of energy. And what happens with these major data centers that are coming with the AI is they are using so much water and they are using so much energy that drinking water is diminished for the area. But the other thing is power bills go up. And because they're seen as being, this is a good data center, this is a good business, it's part of infrastructure. The cost of all that gets pawned off on the community who are maybe already struggling with power bills. And as we know, power bills, even programs that can help low-income people pay their power bills can be chopped off and cut off at the whim of the government, as we're seeing right now. So here we are.
What's up, Cowboy Kitty? AI and nukes sounds like a great idea. I know, right? What could possibly go wrong? Right. Well, your water bill goes up too. So that's another utility that you have to find a way to pay for, because these jokers coming in and putting up so in California, I know the water situation there was due to a lot of the Los Angeles and a lot of the almond farmers around there were using just a lot of water, and of course Nestle out there too, buying up a lot of water. So now and that was probably I was hearing about that like about maybe 15, 16 years ago. And now it's come around to where it's not just places like that. It could be anywhere. It could be any small town where they can find cheap land that's close to water sources and these power sources. I'm like, well, why don't these companies just power their own things, right? Why don't they use solar or whatever and power their own data centers? I don't know how much wind or solar you would need for that, but to pull it off of the public grid like that is just insane. And and you hear a lot of stories about these people getting their electricity bills like doubled because of not because of the usage, but because of the price per wattage or kilowatts, whatever they're using. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. And this small town is saying we don't want to deal with it. We simply do not want to deal with it. And
Good for
we're going to
them.
see more stories like this. Folks, I would absolutely advise you to look into this and to be aware this is happening in your community. Understand that this is not just they're saying, well, we're bringing jobs and and that sort of thing. Yeah, but if that's going to be costing people, if bringing the jobs is offset by people having to pay more in utility bills, having to deal possibly with pollution, water shortages, that's a real problem.
Yeah, and this is such a relatively brand new problem that these communities are starting to face, right? So that's where you have to nip it in the bud. You need to get into your town hall meetings, get with your local officials and stuff, and talk to them and say, hey, look, we like these people, and say, hey, look, we don't want this here. This is not going to benefit us at all, unless they can find a way for the owners of these data centers to bring back something to the community, which they're not going to do. They're there to use up the resources, and the citizens be damned. So, yeah, this is that's that. Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be more and more of these kinds of stories popping up within the next year or so, especially as these AI advances, and they're going to need more power. They're going to need more energy, more water, that sort of thing. Look at that. Some states are indebted to wait, what was it? Can you put that back?
Sorry.
Was it some states are indebted to data centers? One in Texas is owed high tens of millions by the state. Yeah, see, and putting a stranglehold on counties and states like that. You have to stop that now. Otherwise, if it's allowed to flourish, it could be in your town. It could be in, I have family and friends down south who live in rural areas. It could be down there too. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. So I haven't made a graphic for this yet. I'm gonna do this too. But we got to keep an eye with the press pool here.
Yeah.
We got why visuals still matter inside NPPA's fight for the future of photojournalism.
It was several years ago that the Chicago Sun-Times, one of our well-established newspapers, basically, just made all their photographers freelance. And, they really didn't have much in the way of editors and that sort of thing. And I think it's tragic. It's a real tragedy in journalism to see that photojournalism, that work of capturing photos by actual photographers, people who have been trained in photography, not just somebody who can point and shoot one of these, not saying there's anything wrong with that, but the idea of people who have been trained to take good, compelling photos. And of course, the photo editors who understand the importance of getting photos that are accurate, that accurately depict scenarios, shooting, and who are able to identify the people in them, to verify the validity of that photo, which is becoming increasingly important in a time of AI. It is absolutely critical that photojournalism be respected, and I think that there's been less respect given to it. I was talking to a dear friend of mine who teaches young journalists. He's a communications professor, and he said one of the things that he's encountering is back when he and I were in school, when reporters were going out, even the young cub reporters, they would have a photographer or a videographer with them. Now the students are actually expected to go out, report, and use their own phones, and then to edit everything and to select the photos, or if they have access to a stock photo, to select that stock photo. And they're not getting the professional input that they need. So it's the National Press Photographer Association is speaking out and is saying, we want to promote accurate photojournalism, particularly at a time when people are no longer trusting visual evidence or visuals in general. And
Yeah, it could
what you have to have
and
an
AI is
integrated
at the
system.
fault of that too. I mean, because you're
Yeah.
starting to see more and more video and audio and photos that are created in AI. Right now, they can still detect that it's AI, but I would say in a year's time, you're probably not going to be able to, so
Well,
you
and some of
need
these
that.
videos that I've
Yeah.
seen in particular, I mean, you have to look a second and keep in mind, not everybody has great vision. And you've got some older folks out there, for example, who may not really know what AI is all about. They see
Yeah.
something in the paper and they believe it. Now, nobody should be doing that. And I agree that we all need to be critical. But should we have to work that hard to determine whether we're seeing a photo of something that's actually happened and that hasn't?
Right.
And I've managed a blog for a company for many, many years. And I have to select the photos, and I'm not, I'm more of a writer and an editor than I am a photo person. But I can tell you there is an absolute craft in selecting appropriate photographs or
Hmm.
illustrations for things. And when that is not respected, and when these professionals are not fully integrated into the publication, fully integrated into the journalism, the industry of journalism, we are all going to suffer. And I think there's been no time where that is more evident than what's going on now with AI. And unfortunately, a lot of publications, frankly, just got rid of their photo editors and their photojournalists and have chosen to go either with stock photography or freelancers, or the journalists themselves are using their cameras to take photos and leaving it at that. This is very critical because people tend to operate on the seeing is believing, and this can lead to
Hmm.
folks believing things that just aren't accurate.
Well, you're starting to see too now. Well, you have been for quite some time with the advent of things like TikTok and Instagram, where you have vertical video too. And a lot of times that, it's easy for somebody to whip out their phone and take pictures and video of something, sell that to a TV station. I've seen a lot of that too, like a lot of for fires and like a lot of emergencies and stuff like that. They will buy they've been doing that for some time. Like they will like someone would take a picture of something, and if the TV wanted to run it, they said, well, we'll give you credit, and we'll pay you for it, and that sort of thing. But now it seems like the citizen journalists, it seems like, have severely outnumbered the actual photojournalists out there. It's almost a lost art, to be honest with you. Like, especially if you remember like photography from like National Geographic and stuff like that. So, and like the way, not just like this the scenic pictures and stuff, but like the pictures of people, right? You're seeing the eyes of someone who's suffering in a story, right? Where everything else is blurred behind them. That's the magic of photography. That's the magic of capturing more layers of that story than just what the story itself tells too. And like I said, it's a lost art.
It is a lost art, and it's not even just the citizen journalists, it's also professional journalists who are writers. They are
Hmm.
not photographers, and yet they're being asked to do something that they've not trained to do. They may not have a particular talent for it, and there's also the loss of the editor, a photo editor who actually understands visual impact and understands how to gatekeep what goes into a publication, and when it comes to visual things like photography or online, at least video.
Let's dip into radio here. I know I know you like that. Shutdown can't mute Washington's support for local radio. What's up with this?
Well, there is still plenty of legislation that's coming on. It's going on through. One is happening that are supporting local radio stations, which by default focus because of the fact that their broadcast transmitters have limited range, even if they are streaming. Local radio can bring news and information to communities. And one thing that has happened is the local Radio Freedom Act has gained 10 additional co-sponsors in the House of Representatives. And this is a bipartisan coalition that is objecting to any new performance fees, taxes, or royalties that would be required to be paid by local radio stations. This is oftentimes being framed as, well, the artists deserve their royalties. I absolutely agree with that. But instead of pushing that onto the radio stations, the record companies could try compensating people more, as could the streaming services out there. So what this would do is it would prevent additional requirements or taxes on music performances on the radio, and instead say, hey, record companies, do your job and pay your artists accordingly. So that is one thing that is coming up. The other is that the Voices Act is continuing to see action. One of the things that the Voices Act would do is it would revive the minority tax certificate program for broadcast ownership. So what that is, it was something that has gone moribund, but many people would like to bring it back. And what it is a certificate that if you own a radio station and you sell it to a person of color or a woman, or a group of people, which is more than, I believe, 50% women or people of color, you will get your tax certificate will give you preferable tax treatment on the sale. It's not the person or the individual or the group that's buying the station that gets this. It is the seller that gets this, which incentivizes these folks to be able to work with and sell their stations to people of color or women who want to have their own station. One thing that's happening is that radio stations, it's very difficult for people to get traditional funding. Their banks are not lending money for that. So the stations either have to self-finance, or people have to come up with other ways of funding the purchase of a station. What this will do is not only will it encourage diversity in ownership, but it can also help to ensure that the tower is not decommissioned and the station just doesn't go out of business. If there's a reasonable path forward to keeping that station alive and going so that the owner can get out of it what they need and the new owners can go in there and not be strapped, that would be a fantastic thing to have. So that's another thing that I'm hoping for in Washington. And then, of course, there's the AM for Every Vehicle Act, which would keep AM radio in car and automobile dashboards. So we wanted to update people about that. Even through this shutdown, trying to keep local media alive for communities is still continuing to happen.
Indeed. And, that's the thing about radio. I think the younger generations don't really appreciate it as much as we did. And even like the millennials too. Because, where did we listen to our music mostly? It was either off of our radios in the house or in the radios in the car, mostly in the car, because I like to do a lot of driving and listening to tunes and listening to talk radio too, which is still a thing. They don't understand it's still a thing, but it's all been overshadowed by these podcasters on the internet and stuff. It's all well and good, but whenever the poop goes down, we're going to need radio.
Well, it's that too. Radio. And Gen Z is also getting more into it. They're getting more into it for music discovery, and they're also getting it more into it for the news. And I've been listening to some NPR lately. There's some really great news stuff going on.
Yeah, I used to listen to NPR when I was study, and I was listening to they had All Things Considered. I don't know if they still have that program or not. But on the weekends they would have like Echoes. You remember that? John DiLiberto. Hi, this is John DiLiberto, and you're listening to Echoes. And they always play like space music and stuff. And I would study to that too. Just like, you have like your lo-fi, again, you have your lo-fi channels that have that kind of music on YouTube, but to hear it on the radio like that, it's just a little bit more special, I think.
Yeah, it is. So that's the latest on that. And again, we got the visual media, and then we've got the audio media, and it's under siege on both ends. So we need to be aware.
Yeah, Be vigilant, folks. Vigilant. When I say vigilant, almost said village people. Be village people, folks. You could be a cowboy.
YMCA.
I don't recommend the cop, but the cowboy, probably the cowboy. It's a nice hat. Finally, today, Lainey, I know this is kind of in your wheelhouse when it comes to wine and stuff like that. I heard it through the grapevine that there was a grapevine that's very old. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Heard it through the grapevine. 416-year-old grapevine in Tibet is officially the oldest in the world. You got a little thing here. I don't think we need the music there, but there it is. Look how big that thing is.
Wow.
416 years old. China is Zhejiang County, China, which has a local history of grape cultivation and wine making. Neat. Now, you and I was talking about this before the show. I asked you about Chinese wine. I didn't even know the Chinese were into wine. I find that very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, they're not particularly well. I mean, they've had a 5,000. It's a huge, very old culture. And I know that they have been making wine. I've been hearing more noises about Chinese wine emerging. I think with climate change, many of the wine regions around the world are facing challenges. So we're seeing wine being made in different places. Michigan, for example, is starting to emerge as a place where some good wine is being made. England, there are some areas in Sussex where they're making, I've had it, it's excellent sparkling wine that's being made. I know it sounds crazy, but this is happening. So again, humanity, we're resilient and we're adaptable. And people are saying, okay, we can't really make wine here as easily anymore. Let's try someplace else.
Yeah, it's pretty soon we'll be having vineyards in Antarctica. So this grapevine was found in the mountains of Tibet, was certified by the Guinness World Records as the oldest wild living vine after being found to be 416 years old. The vine located in Zuoba Village, Zhejiang County, was first discovered during a survey of ancient and notable trees in Chengdu City and was later analyzed by scientists from the Wood Science Research Laboratory at Southwest Forestry University in China. The researchers used ring analysis and physical measurements to determine the vine's age. It was officially certified by Guinness in September at the age of 416. The vine, located at an altitude of nearly 7,900 feet, measures about 26 feet tall and has a diameter of more than 2 feet. And of course, here in America, we'd be like, man, that's a weed. We need to cut it down. We chop, chop. No, it's so old, please. But I thought you might enjoy that since you're a wine aficionado. I
did. We had some good wine the other night, didn't we, Uncle Warren?
We did, yeah. We hung out with the Scooby-Doo gang. I almost said the Cosby Kids. Hey, with Fat Albert. I'm Fat Albert, and they were the Cosby Kids. But yeah, good wine. You had wine from South Africa. Where else do you have? Where was it?
2 from Italy, 1 from South Africa, and then Jose came up with a great bottle from California.
Yeah, and you know what? It was good wine because the next day, no hangover. It was delightful. And Lainey, I when I drink wine, I put it down because I enjoy it, and not
I both put it down. And I wanted to get the good stuff, and I brought some really nice bottles, and they were all pretty affordable. The ones that I brought were pretty affordable as well, so I was really happy.
It's well, at least for now, you can still get good wine at an affordable price, and in moderation. I'm no doctor, so don't listen to me, but in moderation, wine is actually pretty good for your heart too. So
you could be a visa officer and make all these predictions.
Yeah, that's true. The visa officers, they know everything about health and the future of your own personal health. I'm going to go talk to a visa person today and say, hey man, what do you think about 10 years? And he's like, no, dude. No. Oh, the visa guy, he's doomed to me. Well, that was good stuff. Very good, man. We are almost to 2 hours again. These shows just fly by, Lainey. There's a lot of good information that
A lot
you
of good
provide.
information. And we got a lot of
Yeah.
good folks who come in with their own comments and their own contributions. Really grateful to everybody. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Steve Wolfbrand. Yeah, good to see you. Thanks everybody. Yeah, we're on YouTube, on my channel, but also on the Undercurrent channel. Check it out. It's the Undercurrent for you. It's in our link tree here, so all our contact and information is in the link tree there for you. I ask if you're watching on on my channel, that's great, but if you could subscribe to the Undercurrent for you, the number 4 and YOU on YouTube, that would be great too. We want to build that channel up, and Lainey and I have our channels on Facebook that we're using. I think at some point we might actually, if we get to it, we may actually make a Facebook page just for this. We'll see how the future pans out. We'll ask the Visa guy about that too, if we can, because since he's a futurist. What you got anything coming up, Lainey? Any world travels? What do you got?
No,
going
I'm
on?
back. I'm back here. Was back home in Chicago for my brother's memorial service. This has been one hell of a month, starting a show and dealing with the passing of my brother. But thank you to everybody who's been so kind and supportive through this. And now I can really start, getting my hands in and getting this show going big time. There's a lot more that I want to do with it, I know, and that all of us want to be doing. So again, I want to thank everybody for your kindness and support.
And the folks that have bled over from the Extra Bowl community, I really do appreciate you checking out this show and supporting us. It's a great community, good people, very, very kind, very, very generous, and generous with with their time and sometimes with their money too. And it's just but the important thing is that we're trying to provide you the information that you can actually use. The news you can use, but that's more pertinent to your situations rather than just having, he said, she said, ridiculous, personality conflict stories that, those are a dime a dozen. We're trying to actually provide you with some real information that hopefully it will benefit you. Myself, I will be back on Friday for Morning Extra at the same time as this show, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time. And of course, the secret show will be back Saturday night at midnight Eastern and 8 p.m. 9 p.m. I always have to do the math in my head. I'm not good at math. I took last week off, but I was kidding around with the folks yesterday saying that you were cracking the whip on me and you wouldn't let me off last Wednesday, even though I begged and pleaded. You said, no, you'll be there or else. So no, I'm just kidding.
You were a good
I love
boy.
doing this show. I'm here to help you. I'm here to be a part of this and help inform people as well. I like what you do. I like everything that you're about as far as like the information that you provide, because you're no bullshit. And we got plenty of bullshit. We don't need that. We need non-bullshit. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I want to thank everybody again. Keep your eyes open, ears open. If you go to our link tree and you have a tip or a story idea, you can either send through our regular email or through Proton Mail for more security. We do want to hear from you. We're here to serve you. If there are things that you want us to report on, let us know. Yeah. We want to do that for you.
And don't forget, down below, we've been scrolling the link tree, but we also have our Substack, The Undercurrent for you. Did I do that right?
Right. And if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, we're just a little acorn that's starting to sprout out of the soil. So hopefully we'll be a giant tree soon, providing leaves and leaves of knowledge. I don't know what kind of analogy that was, but yeah. I got nothing. Thanks everybody. We appreciate you on all our channels watching this. We'll see you next week for more of The Undercurrent. Peace. You heard.
Bye.